Hello, I'm Mike, and this is Will. We are the Tabletop Donkeys.
Hello.
And we're bringing you issue 47 of Warhammer 40,000 Combat Patrol magazine today. This issue came with part 1 of 2 for the Ork Deffkoptas, so we'll have to wait a little while before we can see them. But in today's game, we'll be learning the full rules for the Chaos Space Marine Combat Patrol and trying those out. Looking through the issue, first up we have the build guide for the Deffkoptas, and these are push-fit models, but as always we recommend using glue just to make sure they all stay together. But they're fairly simple to put together because the main body of the model is just 2 parts, and they've got their own special bases with a little groove in so you can make sure they're lined up correctly. So you've got the first one with rocket launchers, and then the second one also has some rocket launchers. Finally the third one, which has a big bomb underneath and a custom mega blaster. And we have some more painting guide. This is highlighting, going over the Black Legion Chaos Space Marines. Again, it tells you to highlight the black bits with Calgar Blue. Probably would recommend using Mechanica Standard Grey instead. Or whether you're using blue or grey, you do need to be a little bit careful when highlighting black, because if you use too much of the highlight, it can end up looking like the highlight colour rather than the black. And again, Stormhost Silver for mechanical parts and gold, and Night Quest or Flesh for any leather parts, and fur. So you can see them there. And again, the same process, but for the Orks. Calgar Blue or Mechanica Standard Grey for the black bits, Stormhost Silver for metals, and Night Quest or Flesh for any leather parts. It will take a bit of time to do it, but it's well worth the time taken. And then we have the collection article for the Deffkoptas, which are these improvised flying machines or flying death trap. Although the Orks piloting them really don't care about that. It's just the opportunity to fly around at high speed and dacker things to death. Orks don't really care about much more than that, really. And then the data sheet on the next page. But I can hand you over to Will, so he'll tell us all about our new Chaos Space Marine rules as we get into our game.
So we won't be going over the Deffkoptas data sheet right now because we don't see them in action until the following issue where we'll look at that. But we do have the Chaos Space Marine enhancements, secondary objectives and stratagems, so we'll finally be able to use the full combat patrol with all of their rules. So the Warlord, the Dark Apostle, as usual has 2 possible enhancements. The default one is called Hateful Exhortation. If you give the Dark Apostle this one, you can pick one enemy unit at the start of the first battle round, and until the end of the battle, each time a model in the Dark Apostle's unit makes an attack that targets that enemy unit, a critical wound, which is an unmodified wound roll of 6. You improve the armor penetration of that attack by 1, but if that unit is destroyed, you don't pick another one or anything. Or you can replace that with Infernal Blessing, where the Dark Apostle gets a Feel No Pain 5+ ability. I think that would only apply to him and not his 2 Dark Disciples, because it does say the Bearer, and he is in a 3-model unit. Then for secondary objectives, the default one is called Champion of the Dark Gods, where the Dark Apostle gets 3 victory points at the end of any phase in which he kills one or more enemy models. Or that can be replaced with Idolatrous Despoilers, where at the end of your opponent's turn, you score 4 victory points if one or more units from your army that aren't battle shocks are wholly within your opponent's deployment zone. And they have 3 stratagems to use. Firstly, Empiric Rights, which costs 1 command point, and you use it in your opponent's shooting phase or the fight phase just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. 1 Heretic Astartes infantry unit that was targeted can have a 4+ invulnerable save until the end of the phase, useful against high AP things. And we have Bitter Blows, which also cost 1 command point, which you can use in the fight phase, again after an enemy unit has selected its targets, and you select Heretic Astartes infantry unit that was targeted, and until the end of the phase, each time one of those models in that unit is destroyed, then it hasn't fought already that phase, you can roll 1d6 on a 4+, it can make its combat attacks before it is removed from play. So something to play if you're charged by a powerful enemy unit possibly, because it means you might get to strike back even if the model goes down. And finally, Malicious Volleys, where you select a Heretic Astartes infantry unit in your shooting phase that hasn't been selected to shoot yet, 1 command point, and you can reroll hit rolls of 1. Or if the target unit is below half strength, you can reroll all the hit rolls instead. So as an example, particularly good for something like the Havocs that have a lot of firepower. But that's all that's in this issue. I'll remind you that in the previous issue we did look at the rules for Dark Pacts, which is their faction rule. You can go back and watch the previous video if you want to see that in detail, but you'll see it in action plenty during the game, I'm sure. So we're going to set up with the Chaos Space Marine Combat Patrol deployed for the first time. So we set up the board for the Chaos Space Marines facing the Aeldari, since we haven't seen them so much either. And we've gone back to Mission 1, Clash of Patrols, because we've played all the 5 missions we've had now, and neither of these patrols have actually played this mission, and it's nice and straightforward. So we can focus on all the new rules. There are 4 objectives in the centre in a diamond pattern, and deployment zones along the long edges. From the second battle round onwards, you score 5 victory points for each objective you hold, up to a maximum of 15, and the player going second in the 5th battle round scores at the end of the turn instead of in their command phase. And the special rule from the second battle round onwards onwards. If you hold an objective in your command phase and your warlord is alive and on the battlefield, you can gain an extra command point. But each objective can only be selected for that once for either side, so once it's been used up, it's not available for either side anymore. Have a look at my Aeldari deployment first. It's all skewed towards one side of the board just because I'm trying to make as much use of the line of sight blocking terrain as possible. We've got one unit of 3 Wind Riders on the left with the Wraith Lord, and the other unit of Wind Riders and the Guardians behind another piece of line of sight blocking terrain in the middle near objective 4. Couldn't quite hide all of them behind there, but most of them should at least get cover. And I've gone for the optional enhancement and secondary objectives for the Aeldari because we haven't seen either of those yet. So that's Eldritch Might for the Farseer, allowing rerolls of 1 on hits, wounds and damage for psychic attacks. And the secondary, a Greater Destiny, which gives me 10 victory points if I have a unit wholly within the Chaos deployment zone at the end of the game. And on the other side we have the Chaos Space Marines.
Yeah, so my deployment's a bit more spread out. So on my right flank, or your left, I have one half of the Chaos Space Marine unit with 4 Bolt Gunners and the Heavy Bolter, and then the Havocs. And then I've got the Dark Apostle with the other 5 Chaos Marines, so that's the Melter, the Aspiring Champion, and the 3 with Chainswords, and the Hellbrute on my far left flank. And I'm doing the default enhancement and secondary objective, so that's 3 VP for me in each phase in which the Dark Apostle destroys any units. It doesn't technically have a gun, so you can get it in the shooting phase, and the Hateful Exhortation, so I can pick an Aeldari unit at the start of the first battle round, and then his unit will get +1 AP against that target, as long as I roll a 6 to wound against it.
So that means we just need to roll to see who gets the first turn. 3 for the Aeldari.
5 for Chaos.
So it'll be Chaos Space Marines turn 1. Now you can see my fate dice for this game, which I've rolled. Got a quite decent roll on the first attempt.
I think I'll pick the Guardians doing a target with my Hateful Exhortation. So in my movement phase, the squad of Marines with bolt guns is going to move up towards, or into the crater, heading towards Objective 2, so they get some cover. Havocs and the other unit of Marines have moved towards Objective 1. The Havocs so they can see the Wraith Lord and the Guardians, whereas the Marines are there to sticky Objective 1, and the Hellbrute's going to plod along towards Objective 3. So I'm going to start the shooting phase with the Havocs, who are going to use Dark Packs to give themselves Sustained Hits 1, which won't stack with the Heavy Bolter's built-in Sustained Hits 1. And the Missile Launcher is going to fire a Crack Missile at the Wraith Lord, along with the Las Cannon, and the other 3 are going to fire at the Guardians.
And I'll spend a command point for Whip-Fast reactions on the Guardians, so they have -1 to hit.
Yeah, I'm spending a command point for Malicious Volleys, so the Havocs can reroll 1s to hit. So I'll start with the Las Cannon on the Wraith Lord. Reroll 1s, sitting on the 3. It's still missed. Missile Launcher, reroll 1s. Well, that's not a good start. And then we've got a Heavy Bolter on 4s, because the Guardians are hard to hit. Reroll 1s. 1 hit, wounds on a 3. It does, that -1.
But they will have cover because most of them are behind some terrain. Failed, so lose a Guardian.
Champion's Plasma Gun hits. I'm not going to supercharge because no need to. It wounds, that's -2.
So 5+ with cover. Oh, made it.
And the Reaper Chain Cannon, 8 shots on 4s. 6s are sustained, so at least we got some sustained. Those miss, that gets re-rolled into a hit, and then there's 3 sustained, so that's 9 out of 8. Wounding on 3s, so 5 wounds at no AP.
3s with cover, I will take them all on people in cover. Made them all. So we lose 1 Guardian.
And now the Havocs have to take a leadership test because they did Dark Packs, needing a 6. And they succeed with a 7.
Yeah, if they'd failed, they would have taken D3 mortal wounds.
Yeah. The Legionaries with bolt guns are going to shoot at the bikes. And you know what, I'll make them do sustained hits as well. I'll do the Heavy Bolter first. It hits on 4s, so it gets 1 hit. Wounds on 3. It does. It's -1.
So I'm actually going to use a 4 fate die just to make sure it doesn't kill one automatically with 2 damage.
And then 8 bolt gun shots on 3s. And that's a lot of 1s, but we got a sustained at least. Wound on 4s. 2 wounds.
I will take these on normal 3+ save. Take a damage.
Then the leadership test for the other Marine squad. They fail and take D3 mortal wounds. 2, so we lose a Marine with a bolt gun. Finally, the Hellbrute is going to fire its plasma cannon at the other unit of bikes behind the terrain. D3 shots. 3, hitting on 3s. Not doing any sustained or lethal hits or anything, so 2 hits, wounding on 2s. 2 wounds at -3.
I'll take 1 on the Shuriken Catapult bike that is in cover, so it will be a 5 to save. No, and then I'll take a 6+ on the other one, which is not in cover from this angle, because I don't want to lose the scatter laser. No, so both of those are destroyed. But it is hazardous.
So on a 1, no, it's fine. That's going to be the end of my shooting and my turn.
But with that, we'll be on to Aeldari turn 1. So I did pass the Battleshock test on the lone Wind Rider, but Fortune failed to go off, and I also didn't gain another Fate die because the Guardians are not on an objective in the command phase. And then I've moved towards my left flank with both of the Wind Rider units, so they can both see the Havocs, the lone Wind Rider getting onto objective 2, and the Wraith Lord is coming around behind this container. And the Guardians have just moved out onto objective 4, so they can see things to shoot at, principally. And I will start the shooting with the Guardians. They're going to fire everything at the Havocs.
We're going to spend a CP to go to ground to get cover.
We'll start with the Star Cannon, 2 shots on 3s. 1 hit, wounds on a 3 against Havocs. It did. It's -3, but with cover.
So 5+ save. Nope.
1 dead. And we have Eldritch Storm, which is a blast weapon, so D6 + 1. 7 shots. Hitting on 3s, re-rolling 1s because of the Farseer's enhancement. No 1s, they just all hit. Wounding on 3s because it's strength 6, again re-rolling 1s, the enhancement coming into effect, so I can re-roll that into another 1. So 4 wounds at -2, but they have cover again.
4s, failed 3.
D3 apiece, and I can re-roll 1s on these. Where a 1, I suppose, is actually a 1 or a 2, because that's how D3 works. So that's a 3, so that just kills 1.
Yep.
Second one is a 2, and the third one is a 1, which I might as well re-roll because there's a 2 in 3 chance of getting better than that. It's a 2.
I'll just leave the last cannon man.
And then 18 shots from shuriken catapults, all on 3s. 11 hits, wounding on 5s. Just Havocs are toughness 5. So 4 wounds at -1.
4 3+ saves because we've got cover. Oh, but I still failed 3.
So that is actually the Havocs destroyed. And then I'm spending my command point for Zephyr Swift, so they can make a normal move up to 6 inches. Getting further away, we're staying within 3 of the objective, but making it much harder for the Chaos Marines to charge them. And then the Wraith Lord shooting will be on those 4 Chaos Space Marines in the crater. Right Lance hits on a 4, it does. Wounds on a 2, yes, -3, but they do have cover from the crater.
So that's a 5+. Nope.
D6 + 1 damage, so it will kill 1. And then 4 shots from shuriken catapults, also on 4s, 2 hits. 4s to wound, nothing. The lone bike with the scatter laser is going to shoot at the Dark Apostles unit. 6 shots, but not the closest unit, so no rerolls. They will hit anyway. 3s to wound. 4 with no AP.
So I used the Dark Apostles' 2 friends, who are 4+ vulnerable saves. So one of them's dead, 2 left. Then he dies, and then a Marine who takes a wound.
And finally, the other Wind Rider unit will shoot at the Chaos Marines in front of them. Scatter laser, this time will be rerolling 1s because they are the closest unit. 6 hits. And 6 wounds.
3+ armor saves. Failed 1.
And 4 catapults, rerolling 1s. 3 hits, 4s to wound. 2 at -1. But twin linked, so 3 wounds at -1.
3+ save still because we're in cover. Failed 2 obviously, so we lose another Marine. 2 left.
And finally we have a charge from the Wraith Lord into those 2 remaining Marines. Probably needs about a 7. A 5 is definitely not enough, and I don't have any command points. So that ends Aeldari turn 1. So into Chaos Space Marines turn 2.
In my command phase, I gained 5 victory points because I held 1 objective, and then I will use the mission special rule to get an extra command point from objective 1, so I'm up to 2. Then the Marines in the middle are going to move towards the Guardians. Hellbrute moving, and you can just about see the bikes on the far left of the board, while the 2 Marines that were in the crater are going to move to take objective 2 from that lone Wind Rider. In the shooting phase, I'll start with the Hellbrute. It's going to shoot at the other unit of 3 bikes. D3 shots, 3 again, hitting on 3s, not doing any Dark Pact. No, only 1 hit. Wounds on a 2, it does.
The one who's damaged is not in cover, so a 6. Oh, yes.
That's fine.
And hazardous test.
Hellbrute's fine. The 2 Marines will shoot at the same unit of Wind Riders. 2 shots from the bolt gun first, try and finish off that wounded one. He only gets 1 hit, which wounds.
3+. Oh no, actually kills it.
And 3 shots from the heavy bolter on 4s. I'm getting 2 hits plus a sustain, so that's 3 hits. Wounded on 3s. 2 wounds at -1 AP.
Well, I'll use another 4 fate die to pass one of them and roll the other. Nope, does to kill another bike.
Finally, the Chaos Marines, the Dark Apostle, and this Marine plus the Melter Gun are in range of the Guardians, so they'll fire their pistols at them. The other one will shoot at the Wind Rider on objective 2. And we're not going to do any Dark Pact.
Yeah, the champion and the pistol at the back are out of range entirely. Yeah.
Do the shot on the Wind Rider, which hits and doesn't wound. The Melter Gun hits, wounds on a 2. No. The regular pistol hits and wounds on a Guardian.
4+ to save, made it.
And the Dark Apostle hits on a 3, he does, and wounds on a 3, he does not. In my charge phase, these 2 Marines will charge the Lone Wind Rider. They're in with a 5. And then the other Marines will try and charge the Guardians. They're going to need a 9.
And I'm going to use my command point to overwatch with the Guardians. We'll show the scatter laser, needs 6s, got 1 hit.
You mean the thingy cannon?
Oh yeah, the star cannon rather. It does wound, -3.
6 plus save, no. So actually lose the chainsword man at the back.
Yeah, he was wounded. Then I'll do the Farseer, d6 plus 1 shots, 6. 6s but rerolling 1s. Nothing but a reroll, nope. Right, and all the shuriken catapults. 4 hits, 4s to wound, 3.
We'll go on the Meltagun man because he's actually in the crater, so he's in cover, and the Dark Apostle is closer, so he has 3s, so he's fine. And the last one, and then he takes a wound. And
then we've also got the Farseer's Singing Spear, which hits on a 6 but can reroll 1s because it is a psychic weapon. Oh, it hit. Wounds on a 2, strength 9. That's a wound, no AP though. Kills him.
And now my charge, I need a 9 with the Dark Apostle. Definitely re-rolling that, because 3 isn't enough. 7 isn't enough.
So we've just got the 1 combat to resolve with these 2 Marines against that Wind Rider.
6 attacks on 3s, getting 3 hits, and winning on 4s, getting 2 wounds.
I'll use a fate die to make sure it's not going to die, and roll the other save. Does take a wound. And 3 attacks back, 2 hits, 5s to wound, no. So that's the state of the board at the end of Chaos turn 2, and on to Aeldari turn 2. So Fortune was successful this turn, I put that on the Guardians. I also gained 2 command points because I could get one from Objective 4 with the Mission Special rule. Both of the Wind Riders passed their Battlefront tests, and I gained 5 victory points for holding Objective 4. Then the Guardians have moved back away from the approaching Dark Apostle and friends. The damaged Wind Rider fell back and is going to hide behind that cargo container, probably for the rest of the game until it can possibly zoom out at the end of the game and get my secondary. Wraithlord moving around the box to take Objective 2, and the other Wind Rider going over towards the Chaos deployment zone. So we'll do the shooting with the Guardians shooting at the Dark Apostle and Chums, and I'll spend a command point for Storm of Shots, so they have +1 to hit.
I'm going to spend a CP to give them a 4+ invulnerable save. Empiric Rights.
So Star Cannon as usual. Does hit twice because of the +1. And 2s to wound, yes.
4s, made 1, lose a Marine.
Then I'll do Eldritch Storm, only d6 this time because there's only 4 of them left, so 4 shots on 2s, rerolling 1s, they will hit anyway. 3s, rerolling 1s, 3 wounds at -2.
Failed 2.
First one, d3 damage, rerolling a 1, that's 2 damage. Second one, 3 damage. Just the Dark Apostle left. I'll do the Singing Spear next. It hit. And wounded, no AP.
3+, saved.
And all the shuriken catapults on 2s. 12 hits winning on 4s. That was 8 wounds at -1.
8, 3+ saves, because he is in the crater. And he failed 3, so he's down to 1 wound.
And then after shooting, we'll use Zephyr Swift again to move the Guardians behind the cover. So we'll see if the Lone Wind Rider can finish him off. 6 shots on 3s. Only 3 hits. 3s to wound, 2 at no AP.
3+ save, made them both.
And then the Wraithlord, the Bright Lance will go into the Hellbrute, the 2 shuriken catapults into the Dark Apostle. The Bright Lance hit, wounds on a 3. It did, -3.
5+ armour, no.
D6 +1 damage, 4.
Down to 4.
And 2 catapults on 4s. 2 hits, 4s to wound, 2. -1, but he's still in the crater.
3+, made them both.
And finally the Wraithlord will charge these 2 Marines. And it gets an 8. So the Wraithlord will come around that side.
Yeah, and I use another command point for Empiric Rights again on those 2 Marines. Give them a 4+ invulnerable.
Oh, I use the sweep profile, so 8 attacks hitting on 4s. 4 hits. Wounding on 3s. 2. -2, but I got there 4+.
4+. Didn't help.
So the Wraithlord clears that objective. And that will be the end of Aeldari turn 2. On to Chaos turn 3.
Well, we're just going to see what damage we can do to the Eldar before we go down. Well, the only movement is the Dark Apostle moving towards the Guardians, and then the Hellbrute is going to shoot at the Wind Rider that's near my deployment zone.
Yeah, he did pass his Battlefront test, also gaining 2 command points because of taking another one from Objective 3, and 10 victory points for holding 2 objectives as well.
Yep. D3 shots from the Hellbrute. 1. Hits on a 3. It does. Wounds on a 2. It does.
I'll just use a 6 fate die to automatically pass the save then.
The Apostle will fire his bolt pistol at the Guardians. He missed. And the charge phase will try and charge them. Needs more than a 4 probably. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, unfortunately with that failed charge, that will be the end of Chaos turn 3.
Yeah, I'm just going to concede. They're just going to get shot off the board. That's not going to be that interesting to watch.
Yeah, basically, I mean, the Dark Apostle's not going to withstand the entire Guardian unit shooting at him, and then even if the Wraithlord misses the Help Route, it's not going to be able to take the game by itself, and I probably will get my 10 points at the end of the game as well from my secondary, because I'll just be able to zoom a Wind Rider over there. So, yeah, it will be definitely an Aeldari victory, even if a couple of more of them go down before the Chaos Marines do. So we'll recap that for you now. Well, that was a game from issue 47 of Warhammer 40,000 Combat Patrol magazine. We can all see kind of how that went, unfortunately. It wasn't the best.
At least it was over quickly. To be honest, it was a bit pitiful from most of my army, apart from the Hellbrute. Some games, you just roll badly, and it's frustrating in the moment, and you get over it. I think the plan was fairly sound. Just kill the Wind Riders to cripple your mobility, and then munch all the Guardians. Failed on the second step, and got mowed down because everyone forgot to wear their armour and loaded rubber bullets. Or just shot randomly like we're orcs. And normally I would have hoped the Havocs would have survived a round of shooting from Eldar Guardians with cover, but apparently not.
Yeah, I mean the Guardians do have a lot of shots, but your saves were decidedly poor. And actually the Farseer's enhancement, although I do maintain that the other one, whether you get the free Overwatch with the whole Guardian unit, is better, actually his Eldritch Storm was pretty devastating in that game.
But if I had made that 9-inch charge, I probably would have been a pretty good spot, because you'd have been down to probably just 2 Wind Riders and the Wraithlord.
If it had gone differently and your shooting had been more effective, you can see how easy it is to cripple the Aeldari Combat Patrol. Actually, just killing the Guardians is really quite... because the Wraithlord can't do everything by itself.
Or the Wind Riders.
Yeah, and the Wind Riders actually are surprisingly vulnerable to things like plasma cannon. They've mostly faced the Tyranids and the Space Marines, which don't have high strength, high damage shots. But yeah, they do go down quite quickly to something like the Hellbrute plasma cannon. And I can even make one unit -1 to hit.
I mean, even with -1 to hit, Chaos Marines will still hit on 4s most of the time, so it shouldn't be too bad. I guess we should talk about the rules. Yeah, unfortunately, I think Chaos did so badly that it's hard to really talk about them. It probably is more efficient to use Dark Packs with the full unit of Chaos Marines. You'll get the most out of it that way, but even if you split them up, you can choose which one you want. I'm not sure if I rolled any 6s for the Dreadnought. I didn't use Dark Packs because I didn't want to fail the leadership test and roll on a hazardous and do something like 6 damage to itself and nearly die.
I think there is a sweet spot, depending on the toughness of what you're shooting at, where lethal hits versus sustained hits is better. I think generally sustained hits is better against lower toughness things, and lethal hits is better if you're wounding something hard.
If the melee Marines were in combat with the Wraithlord, then lethal hits is better, I think. I think their stratagems are pretty useful, because most of your army is infantry and a 4+ invulnerable save. You would have to weigh it up using it rather than going to ground, but it is useful, potentially. It was obviously very swingy. Re-rolling 1s to hit as well. Since you're hitting on 3s, that's more efficiency.
And actually, if you're shooting something below half strength, it's re-roll everything, which is really quite powerful.
And fight on death. That can be useful, probably only for the melee-flavoured Marines, really. Perhaps if you'd use the Terminators.
Yeah, against the Aeldari, the only melee unit is the Wraithlord, and fighting on death, you're probably not too fussed about that with the melee Marines. But if a melee unit attacks your melee Chaos Space Marines, you might well want to use the fight on death, because they are actually quite dangerous, especially with the Dark Apostle with them. It lets you get some damage in when normally you wouldn't. But yeah, you mentioned the Terminators, which of course are not normally in the Combat Patrol, and I'm sure we'll see them, but I think they actually benefit from these stratagems more than anything else, because they don't technically come with a 4+ invulnerable save on their data sheet. We have commented on that before, but actually looking at the stratagems and the fact they replace the Havocs, it's probably deliberate that they don't have the invulnerable save, because otherwise that stratagem is redundant for them, and they would sort of almost be an automatic replacement for the Havocs if they actually had that. Fight on death for them is really good, because they are actually really good in melee, and malicious volleys, they have an awful lot of shots. So the enhancements, the one you picked, it didn't actually come up because you barely did any shooting at the Guardians.
Yeah, again, it's another one that would be useful if you put the full unit of Marines.
Yeah, it's actually more useful with shooting, most likely.
I mean, it is only with a critical wound of a 6, but I mean, that could potentially chip off wounds off of things like the Wraithlord, so. And the 5+ Feel No Pain might have been useful here, because he might have lived longer. Could be useful in melee for the Dark Apostle, really. If you're up against the Space Marine Combat Patrol and the Space Marine Captain has the default enhancement that gives him precision, that would actually be helpful. And the objectives, the default one where he has to kill things, I mean, in theory you could get 3 VP in your shooting phase. Probably pretty unlikely, unless you're shooting at a Termagant or Imperial Guardsman or something. I mean, he's much more likely to kill something in melee, but it is technically possible, and it would be a nice swing. And the alternate one does give you 4 VP at the end of your opponent's turn, if they're wholly within your opponent's performance. And that is interesting that you just score it in your opponent's turn. I suppose it gives them something to think about, although I think in the example it showed the Havocs. God knows why they plod their way all the way up the board. And that's probably why the Terminators don't have have deep strike either.
Yeah, that would make them much more effective. It does mean, because it's in your opponent's turn, it means you have to get there in your turn and then stand around. So unless your opponent has a unit in their own deployment zone, perhaps not a good one for this particular scenario because the deployment zone is quite thin and quite a long way from the objectives. And there are objectives in deployment zones in some of the missions.
I feel like you'll probably go with the default one because if you're deploying on the short edges, it's probably going to take 3 turns to actually get to the opponent's deployment zone.
Yeah, 4 VP a turn sounds good, but actually the first 2 turns you're not going to be there. With the army's too slow.
You're probably going to need to advance a few times and you don't have a lot of assault on your weapons. So, I mean, I guess if you potentially got some charges, you might make it there. Probably use them in a few of the upcoming videos.
Yeah, we'll certainly see them more, and the Aeldari more now that we've got all their full rules. We'll be able to make more judgments. But that'll do it for this video, I think. We'll talk about the Deffkoptas in the next one, obviously, once they're fully built and on the table. Let us know what you thought in the comments below. We've been the Tabletop Donkeys, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye for now.